Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today is going to be just a little bit different than some of the other things that I've been making videos about. If you've been subscribed and following me for a while, then you've heard me talk about my son Brayden and his medical journey, and that's something else I want to bring back. I want to talk more about that. There's been some changes, some updates and things like that I would like to talk about and discuss because I want to bring more awareness to medical families like mine. I'm hoping to find other ones. I'm hoping to bring just general awareness of it. It is something that I've discovered being a mom to a medical child that I wasn't familiar with a lot of the things that I've learned and seen since becoming his mother. So just, being in a position to share that with people, I think is really important for me to do. So I do have everything typed up over here. I'm going to be reading it. It's just so that I don't lose track of what I've talked about. It is from start to now, from like birth to now, because there is some new, like I said, new followers. So I want to make sure that we cover everything so that everybody is up to date and knows what's going on. So we're starting with Brayden has tetralogy of Fallot, which is a congenital heart defect. We found out about 20 weeks pregnant that he had a congenital heart defect. At the time, it was double outlet right ventricle, which is extremely similar to tetralogy of Fallot. We didn't actually know about tetralogy of Fallot until within the first year of life. So, but Brayden likes to say and tell people that his heart defect is the same one that the snowboarder Shaun White has, which is facts. He does actually have that, and it's become kind of inspirational for Brayden because he knows that he has it and look at all the things that he's accomplished. So that's just like a little fun fact I wanted to add in there. So tetralogy of Fallot is a congenital heart defect that occurs when a baby's heart doesn't develop properly during pregnancy. It's made up of 4 structural abnormalities. That word's hard for me for some reason. In the heart and in the blood vessels. So I'm going to try to not just sit and read this, but at the same time I want to make sure that I'm giving every bit of information correctly, especially. So the first one is ventricular septal defect, VSD, a hole in the wall between the heart's lower chambers. So Brayden, in his open heart surgery, his first open heart surgery, he had that patched. So they were able to place a patch to keep that hole closed so that the blood stayed where it was supposed to in those areas. Pulmonary stenosis, a narrowing of the pulmonary valve and main pulmonary artery. These were worked on in his open heart surgery as well, and it worked for a while, but now it's starting to become a problem again, and they are shrinking back. And that was something that they were trying to fix with a stent a year ago, but they weren't able to place the stent, so that's kind of where we're at now with looking forward to like other things. Overriding aorta. The aortic valve is positioned halfway between the 2 ventricles instead of only receiving blood from the left ventricle. So that one kind of explains itself, I guess. The ventricular hypertrophy. The muscular wall of the lower right chamber of the heart is thicker than normal. There is no cure for tetralogy of Fallot, but there are treatment options. There are surgeries. There are lots of things that you can do. So this that I'm reading off of is something that I typed up and wrote for his Facebook page. So you'll see me scroll through it. It's like literally in depth. I mean, like it says, he had open heart surgery at 4 months old. He's about to have another one. That's on the table right now. They're monitoring his heart closely because his valve doesn't close completely, so the blood is going back and forth. It's called regurgitation. So the blood is being pumped out, but also sucking some of it back in, as well as like new blood's coming in when this blood's coming out, and then it's coming back in this way as well. So it's enlarging his heart and kind of filling it up more than it should be because it's got like double blood. So his pulmonary artery is narrowing again. The stent is in here. This will be something that follows him his whole life. The heart condition will. These issues, I'm not sure if they will be repetitive, if they'll be the same issues that happen, before each surgery, or, you know, different stages. Obviously, this is my first time, so we're learning as we go about certain things like that. There is some more stuff that I did learn that's later on in this about his heart, and I was debating on doing this in sections like heart, spine, you know, whatever. But I think I'm just going to do an overall diagnosis thing, and like let everybody know like kind of what's going on, and then like where we are now with each thing, I guess, because that's how it's wrote up, and it'd just be easier that way. Okay. He has scoliosis. He was born with scoliosis. It has affected him severely. It's different for everybody. There's obviously different levels, different types. He has a S-shaped curve. And the top was 105 and the bottom was 55, I believe. And now I couldn't tell you exactly what it is because he's had rod surgery. He had to have halo surgery, I guess a little bit over a year ago now. Yeah. And so they put the rods in. But he had to have the halo first. So he wore the halo, which was attached to weights that stretched him out. He wore that for a while, and there's videos of that on here. I wasn't really making YouTube videos then, so I didn't go over it very much, but I took small clips. And those are on here. And then after having that for about a month and a half, he had his rod surgery. So we were in the hospital for 55 to 60 days for all of this. He wasn't allowed to leave during that period of time, and he was hooked up the entire time. The only time he was unhooked, which it was still in his head, you know, around here and here, but he wasn't hooked up to the weights going to the bathroom. That's the only time. Sleeping in the wheelchair, moving around, walking, everything. He had a walker so that he could walk and be hooked up. His wheelchair had it hooked up. His bed had a hook. So he had to have that the entire time. His spine being curved like that affected him in lots of ways. It affected the way things developed. It affected the way things functioned. The rods have helped that some, but the rods have brought their own problems. They've already broke. He's already had more surgeries for that. He's had to have them fixed. But they have helped some. I mean, he's gained weight. If you guys could have saw him before, he was extremely small. So he's gained weight. He's actually grew. It's you know, you get the pros and the cons. His left lung is significantly smaller than his right lung. His left ribs are fused together into his spine. His intestines cannot function properly because of the curving of his spine. Even now that he is somewhat straighter than he was, it has gotten worse. And then this is kind of like the halo talk and stuff. I'm going to say a lot. I apologize for that. But let's see, what was I going to say? I don't remember exactly what I was going to say. He will have to have, every 3 months he goes to have his rods lengthened. And when he starts to hit puberty and stuff, they will do it again. And then I believe, or they will do it again in a few years. Then when he hits puberty, they're going to fuse his spine. So he won't have rods anymore. Let's see. He has something called Vactral, which I will be 100% honest, is not anything. It's not an answer to anything. It's something that originally I thought was a diagnosis and a disease or something of that sort, but it's not. It's just something that doctors kind of throw together, and they put you in that category maybe to kind of satisfy you to thinking that you're being diagnosed with something, to like give you answers or be like, okay, well, this is what you have. This is how we treat it. There is no treatment for Vactral. Everything is individual. Every letter of Vactral stands for something different. V stands for vertebrae anomalies. Let's see. Yeah. And then there's cardiac defects, tracheoesophageal fistula, renal abnormalities, limb abnormalities. Brayden doesn't have all of these, but he checks the box on most of them, and so he was diagnosed with that, or gave that. Let's see. Right now, Brayden's doctors are stumped. That might be something that I guess I should have said at the end, but when I'm doing like the current stuff, but they've been stumped for a little while. We were more than anything pretty much just treating his scoliosis. Well, for a long time, just his heart, then just his scoliosis, and then well, then his heart the whole time, but then focusing more on his scoliosis. You know what I mean? Like, those are the two main things that we've pretty much ever done. When he was first born, it was a very traumatic experience. I was not supposed to be induced. I was supposed to give birth all naturally, no help, because of his heart defect. I wasn't supposed to receive medicine. There wasn't supposed to be anything done. And then if I gave birth to like a 10-pound baby, then I gave birth to a 10-pound baby. And I say that because I asked my cardiologist at the time. I was seeing a cardiologist who was keeping up with Brayden and stuff. And I was like, man, I'm tired. I don't want to do this anymore. And I mean, with Brayden, I didn't have very much amniotic fluid, and I just felt every single move he made. I mean, every move. And it hurt so bad. There was nothing, like, I guess, helping him move around. If that even makes sense, I don't know. But it was an extremely painful pregnancy. And I was like, I just can't do this anymore. Like, can we talk induction? And this is like, I mean, I'm like 30 weeks, and he's like, no, not now for sure. But no, you can't be induced because the medicine will mess with the baby, and we can't risk that. Well, saying that, one day I woke up and something just didn't feel right. My stomach was very hard, and I hadn't felt Brayden move very much. So I did go to the emergency room to get checked out. It was at a hospital that I was not super familiar with because I had never went to a hospital for myself. I went to doctors for Brayden. I went to the hospital for Brayden to see, for them to check out my belly and stuff. And I went to an OBGYN there for Brayden, but I never went to like a hospital for me. So I didn't know anybody there, didn't know anything at all. They decided that it was time for me to be induced. I was almost 37 weeks. And I'm like, okay, that's whatever, if you think that that's needed, but I need to call the cardiologist. They would not contact him for whatever reason. I don't know. I wish that I knew what I knew now. I was 19 years old, and what doctors knew went. I didn't ever second guess anything that they said to me. I didn't question anything, and that was really, really rough for me because I was in labor for 4 days. It was brutal, and I was pretty much begging to just die at the end of it. I just couldn't do it anymore. I was so tired. They were coming in and checking me constantly, giving me medicine in all the kinds of ways. I had an IV. I had this little pill that like melts and softens things. I had, they gave me a Foley balloon, I believe is what it's called. And that was the worst experience I've ever had. It is literally what it says it is. It's this long tube they put, in there, and they put it against the cervix, and they blow it up. And like, I think they fill it with like water or something. And as it grows, it's supposed to like expand and thin out things, and it's unnatural, so it hurts. So it was miserable. I'm talking days of this, and I even told him at one point, I was like, look, please just give me a C-section, and that way I can be done with this. And I know that that's not like the easy way out. It's not, but I know that it would be done. And they wouldn't do it. I still had not called my cardiologist. My heart rate, Brayden's heart rate, was going crazy. It was really, really bad. So finally, Brayden decided to come, and when he was born, he was a very dark purplish black color. So was the sac that he was in. So he was not breathing at all at birth, and they were about to call it. And luckily, by the grace of God, he took one singular breath, which allowed them to be able to tube him. And then they were bagging him. I got to give him one kiss, and that was all I seen of him, and they took him away. And when he was born, there were, I kid you not, 12, 15, 20 different nurses, doctors, everything in that room. And I did not see my child once until they brought him to let me kiss him, and they took him off. So I got 2 seconds of looking at him. And I was not allowed to leave with him at the time. She was still working on me and fixing me up. And then they took me to the room. However, my husband and my mother, she was in the room at the time, they got to see him while they were working on him. And that's when we found out about everything else. The only thing I knew about at birth was his, or before birth, was his heart defect. And that is when we found out about his, I guess we didn't really know about his scoliosis, but he was a little crooked. So we saw that, and then they saw that he was missing some toes, missing a thumb, which that might have been the only other thing that we noticed, because literally like 2 or 3 days prior to that, I had my ultrasound, and Brayden had his hand over his face, and he was like this, and I was panicked, and my husband and my mother were both like, "No, he's got all 5 fingers. He's just got it bent." He didn't. It wasn't there. So that's kind of how that went. He ended up having seizures for a long time after birth, and I mean, the trauma was just horrible. And so he didn't see the point behind telling you this long story, this birth story, was he saw, cardiology at birth. He saw a neurologist. He saw a pulmonologist because of his lungs. He had a lot of tests done. They did find that he this I will say, because I will update you on this too. They told me he had an MRI, obviously, and his MRI was compatible with somebody who had cerebral palsy. They were so sure that he had cerebral palsy, so sure that they brought in a woman who was a doctor there who had cerebral palsy. Now, I'm not very familiar with this, as I definitely wasn't then, and so I feel like it was amazing at the same time, because I cried and thought it was wonderful that she was doing what she was doing. And the point behind it was to show me that no matter what, you can still do what you can do, because she was great. She was like a top doctor. But in my mind, I compared cerebral palsy to everything that she had. I thought that was what they were trying to tell me. She was in a wheelchair and things like that. And so when I was taking it in as a brand new mother who was trying to take everything in, that's what I assumed cerebral palsy was. And pretty much, I just assumed that this was where we were going. That has never came back up again, ever, because we've not seen any other doctors. And is that my fault? Yes, I should have stayed on top of it. And over the years, I've learned to be my son's advocate. I've learned to speak up when I feel like something's not right. I've learned to do my own research so that I can ask questions and be concerned when things are going a different way. I've learned to do all these things. However, in the first few years, like I said before, the doctors were always right. I didn't question it, even if it, didn't make sense. Nothing. So we were never sent to any of these again. So he was on phenobarbital for about 1.5 years for his seizures. They literally just took it away because he wasn't testing for seizures anymore. They stopped seeing pulmonology. The ortho wanted to replace. Listen to this. Brayden has 8 toes. Okay, and you're probably thinking of it totally different than what it is, but I'm going to explain it to you the best I can. On his left, everything that Brayden has is on his left side. All of it. It did not affect his face at all, and that is something that I've always been so grateful for. He's still got this absolutely beautiful, perfectly untouched face. But he is perfect in every way anyways. It was very hard I'm going to be completely honest here, and I'm hoping that nobody judges me for this, but if you do, you do. When I first brought Brayden home and I was taking pictures, I would try my best not to take pictures of his feet or maybe his hand. I loved him dearly, but I knew that people would judge him, and maybe even honestly, I was scared of sharing it. I just didn't want to. Maybe I wasn't ready for the questions or the judgment or whatever, but I tried my best not to. And now and it didn't last long, because thankfully I had this moment, I did a lot of praying, and I just didn't understand. And when you have something like this happen, you have a lot of questions. You have a why me, why him, why us, why what happened, why, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to handle this? But I realized that if I acted like I was ashamed of it, he would be ashamed of it. And so from that moment, we have never treated Brayden any different. He has always been able to try absolutely anything that he wants to do. I've never held him back. I've never stopped him from doing anything. I've never, ever second glanced at anything that's different about him, because he's perfect. He really is. I was just afraid of the way the world would see him. And that has come up a time or two, and it hurts and it sucks, and people are mean and judgmental, and my son does not deserve that, but people don't teach their children to accept everybody. I do understand that it took me aback when I first saw it. So I'm not fazed when somebody sees it for the first time and is kind of shook by it. I'm not offended by that. It's how you respond to that bothers me. If you can handle it and come back from that, and you realize it's different, and it is different, and you don't see that every day. There's a story that I think of every single time that I share this, and it was one time Brayden was doing the little oxygen monitors, the little CO2 monitor, and she was doing it on his fingers, right? And he has little fingers, and he was younger then, so she was like, oh, your fingers are so little. She put it on his thumb. She's like, it's bigger. And then she's like, well, let's try your other one. And she pulls out his hand, and she goes to put it on his thumb, but obviously his thumb's not there. And it's just, she was like, and she just stops for a second, and she was like, she just put it back down. She's like, it's okay, let's just go back. And then she apologized for reacting that way, which there was nothing to apologize for. It does kind of take you aback. Like, if you don't see stuff like that, it is a bit shocking when you first see it. It's just how you handle it from that point. So all of those doctors, we didn't recur seeing for a long time. And then, I've told you guys that he saw Shriners for almost 8 years. And then when I did the second opinion, because I realized that Shriners was not doing anything for him, and they should be, that's when he started going more prominently to Charlotte. That's when he started, everything started changing for him. And now we are doing genetics again, which we did do that when he was a baby, but we're doing it again. Me and him and my husband have all been tested just recently to do some genetic testing, and we're putting that out there. He's seeing GI, and he has an appointment with neurology just to go back over everything, because I did get some news, and this could be wrong. Don't hold me to it, but they did tell me that, like, they don't typically just go away and never affect them again, seizures. So it is something to, I guess, look into to make sure that, everything is still good. He's going to see pulmonology again. He's got an appointment for that. He's having some swallow tests done because he kind of strangles a lot. He always has. He's having so much done now. And the best thing that I can tell you is be your child's advocate. Be your child. And sometimes it's awkward. I'm not going to lie with you and tell you that it's easy. It's not. Sometimes it is really, really hard to make that decision on if you need to speak up or not. And it shouldn't be, but it is. Sometimes it's very awkward and it's hard, but you need to do it. You have to do it. They can't. You need to. It is what it is. I can tell you that the turnaround has been insane from when I've started to stand up and say things, and even I've caught things that they haven't, or I'll call them out on things over the years, and it just works out a lot better. I'm just going to keep going. He's going to go out there and see what's going on. So, the limb abnormalities, we've talked about that and stuff. He has smaller fingers that don't move much on his left hand. He does not have his thumb, and then these 3 fingers are kind of small, and they don't really move. They don't function a whole lot. They kind of just do that, and that's it. But his pinky, it's completely normal sized. So he only has 3 toes on his left foot. It's shaped kind of like a heart, because you got the big toe. It comes down in a V, like way down into the middle of his foot, and then back out. And then he's got 2 little toes over here. So I've always said that's his little heart foot. Everything's on his left side. We talked about that. So lung disease. I'm waiting on a 100% verdict on this, but I noticed that when I was going over his notes and stuff, the doctors had noticed some stuff that was in his lungs that is consistent with lung disease. What kind? I don't know. How bad? I don't know. I don't know any of this. We're seeing pulmonology soon, and I can update on this. His bones are being tested. They're kind of weak. He probably has some kind of calcium deficiency, vitamin deficiency. He's having many tests done in the next several weeks. It says that I wrote this. His GI is not doing very good. Every time he eats, he gets sick. He can eat an entire meal. He can eat 1 chicken nugget, and he almost always is sick. Physically sick. Sometimes before leaving the table, he gets sick. Sometimes it's just like to the point where he doesn't throw up, but he is so sick that he can't hardly even stand to do anything. Like that overwhelming sickness that takes over you. So he's seeing that. He's also doing the swallow test with the barium. I don't know what barium is. I won't lie. I've not actually looked that up, which is crazy because I usually do. But he's having swallow tests done and stuff like that. The cardiologist at one point had brought up medicine, but I'm not sure if we're doing that anymore. I'm not sure if it's needed. He has switched cardiologists, who's only seen him once. He does have a follow-up with a new cardiologist. I can't believe I just made that face, and I'm recording, but I'm 25 minutes in, so anyways, I made that face. Anyway, some things that we just found out, and I don't know if this new cardiologist found it or if it's been found and just not told to me, because the whole, advocate for your children and communicate with your doctors. When you are a young mother, especially young parents, because me and my husband are the exact same age, which we ain't young no more. I'm 29, but we are actually learning more about Brayden now because doctors are communicating with us better than they did when we were 19. And that's just the facts of it. And to any young parents that are out there, you have to advocate, you have to ask questions, you have to make the uncomfortable decisions. You deserve to know now than years later. I'm not saying that we didn't do a good job. We did a good job. That's one thing that I will say about me and about him is we are good parents. You couldn't tell me that. You can call me a lot of things. You can say a lot of things about me. You can bring up everything I've ever done wrong, but you cannot say I'm not a good parent. But in that, being a parent, you learn a lot of things. You make a lot of mistakes. You do a lot of things that you wish you could do differently. The things that I wish I could do is ask more questions and be more involved. It's not that I wasn't involved. I just wasn't asking questions. I just assumed they knew. And I didn't know that you could question a doctor. I didn't know that you could be like, this doesn't sound right. I didn't know you could do that. So that's something that I would definitely say. So like I said, I don't know if he found this. It was in his notes and something that we're talking about right now. I don't know if this was brand new or not information. However, if it's brand new information, this is off the wall. I mean, were you wearing blinders when you did his surgery type of off the wall? Let me tell you why. Brayden, we just went over this. Brayden has tetralogy of flow, which mainly affects his pulmonary arteries. Okay? He has had an open heart surgery. He has an echocardiogram every single time we go, which is an ultrasound of the heart. He has an EKG. Literally, all these things. He's had a attempted stent placement. So they've been in that thing, okay? And we just found out that Brayden's pulmonary arteries are crisscrossed. It's like a pretzel up in there. How come he'll be 10 in a few weeks. So I'm hoping and praying that that's not new information. It's new information to me, but hopefully not to them, because that's wild. Also, his aortic arch is on the right side instead of the left. That's also news. So my husband's grandmother, her heart is on the right side. So maybe it's hereditary. That one didn't shock me as much. I mean, it shocks me that I'm just now finding out. And does that change? Obviously he's lived with it this whole time, but does that change treatment? Does that affect anything? I don't know. Does that affect how you see it on these scans? Sometimes you can't see what you're looking for. Are you looking in the wrong place? I don't know. If you didn't know, I guess you would be, right? Okay. He's had more heart monitors than I've ever seen in my life. In fact, to be honest with you, I had never seen a heart monitor until he had one. And he's had all different kinds of them. Those things are cool. He's never had the one that you wear around your neck that's this big box, and it's got electrodes. He's never had one of those. But his is different, and they go here and stuff. He had one. The last one he had was attached to a phone, and he could write in how he felt every time he pushed the button. It's cool. And then it says it's become a part of him. It seems it does, because I'm telling you, every couple months we have one. He has lots of appointments with new doctors, lots of new specialties, lots of new. Neurology, like I said, he's not seen in a long time, so that's brand new. Pulmonology, he's not seen in a long time, that's brand new. These are things that make sense to me, and I had mentioned them before, but we have not found the right doctors, and that's why you see me saying that we're switching around a lot, or that we're going out of state, or whatever. And sometimes it just takes that. It takes second, third, fourth, fifth opinions. It takes a long time to get to where we are now, to where we have doctors. We have a hospital social worker who works with us. It takes a long time to get to this point with everything that that has been going on. It takes a long time to get here. So we're doing all of this again. It says across the board. So across the board, we are seeing a lot of new everything. In fact, to be quite honest, Brayden has 2 cardiologists at the current moment. He has one in Winston-Salem that he's seen pretty much throughout most of this, if not all of it. He has went to Charlotte. He has went to Asheville, yada yada. But he has one in Charlotte as well, because I was trying to move everything from Winston to Charlotte, because we were going to Charlotte, and then like when he'd have heart surgeries or procedures, tests done, certain like MRIs and stuff, he was getting sent to Charlotte. Anyways, I cannot talk. In fact, one of the videos I made before this, I got halfway through it and I started stuttering so bad I had to cut it off. So we have looked into getting Brayden a service dog for numerous reasons for his health. I don't know if you guys know this, but insurance does not cover a service dog. It does not at all. There are programs that work with you, which most of the programs that I've found, you have to be within that state. Like Philadelphia has one. You have to be within so many miles of this. It's still really expensive. We have found a couple of dogs that we can purchase, which are expensive, but not like nothing like that. Like I'm talking a couple $1,000s. To do the service dog training, you can bring your own animal. It does make it a little bit cheaper. Not a lot, but a little. Because if you go to a company and you buy a service dog that has already been serviced and trained, it can be anywhere to up to like $50,000 or more. I saw one for $138,000 when I was looking, and that's insane. Like, for the price of a house, you can buy a service dog, and that should be included. That is a necessity. I don't understand why it's not included, like why it's not something that insurance covers. I won't go over the things that insurance does cover that's not a necessity, but we're all thinking it. Anyways, it says we've just opened the door. I'm almost done with this. If you guys have stayed this long, we've opened a lot of doors for Brayden, and a lot has been going on over the past several months, the past 2 years, and literally all the way through summertime is booked with appointments, schedules, procedures, surgeries. I'm not 100% positive about all of them that we have scheduled, but Brayden has had 6 surgeries in the past year and a half. He has a new appointment for PTSD. We have a new program to do as a family because it affects not only him, not only me, my husband, my other 2 kids. My other 2 kids are young. My middle child just turned 8 like 2 days ago, and then my daughter is 5, and they just don't really understand why he's gone so much, because when they do come visit him, they don't experience the doctor. They may come to the hospital or they may see him that way, but they don't really understand. And then when we go together and they have to stay here, they don't understand that. They don't understand why they can't go. They just don't understand yet. And it is hard. It's so hard to be away. It's hard for them to understand and be away from us. It's hard for my husband to be by himself and do it. Not that he can't, because he can. It's hard, and he loses hours for work, and financially, this is incredibly financially draining. It's really, really hard. It's hard to have time to make up the money that you've lost on the last trip before the next trip. It's very hard, and all of it is just, it's very, very hard, mentally, physically, financially. So that is something that we are all trying to do together. That way we can hopefully just be in a healthier place, So this is Brayden. This is what he's got going on. This is where we are at. And I will update probably in a couple videos when I know some more, because he has some appointments coming back up. We are constantly on the road, hardly ever home. We spent most of December before Christmas in Charlotte. We leave at the beginning of February again. It's like, it's intense and it's crazy, and there's a lot on the horizon. So remember us and come back, subscribe, share this with your friends. I am obviously working to get monetized because the easiest way, in my opinion, is if I can travel and make videos and make a little money to help out with some of these expenses. That's the easiest thing, because right now holding down a job is just not an option for me, because we are on the run constantly, staying in hospitals for weeks, months at a time. So come back and see me in the next one, please.